Committee. He is also a Marine combat veteran, and I should say, Congressman, you support what the president has done here in Libya, right?
Yeah, I actually do. And, you know, the way that I'm looking at this, if you took President Obama out of this picture and you put in another president, say President Reagan or President Bush, I don't think that we'd be seeing the same backlash that we're seeing now. As an American action, something that we as a nation should be doing, I think that we're making the right decision here. I also think that Secretary Gates is correct. We don't want to see troops on the ground, and I think it's okay for us to tell people that. I don't think it takes something off the table that we're unable to threaten Gaddafi with later. I think the American people need to know, and the American military that's been shouldering two wars since 2001 and 2003 need to know we're not going to put our young men and women on the ground in Libya. So I think that we're doing the right thing. The president does have to answer to Congress at some point, but I think he's within his powers, and I think that as a nation we made the right decision by stopping a humanitarian disaster, a massacre, and then on the upside, if we do happen to get Gaddafi, that's a great thing. So, you know, that would just be a bonus.
You say the president has to answer to Congress at some point. You have heard many of your fellow members saying he was supposed to come to us before he started this action and get Congress's blessing.
Sure. I think that those folks saying that are not correct legally. I think the president has the legal authority as commander-in-chief to basically stage a surprise attack. If Gaddafi could have moved his armor and his air and some of his other assets, his surface-to-air missile assets that we hit, to make it safe to have a no-fly zone, if he could have moved them, he would have, and he would have had ample time to do that if the president had to come before Congress. Congress then debated this, and we went in 2 weeks later, probably when it was too late anyway. The president has to have the ability to stage a surprise attack if it's in the nation's interest, and with the UN Security Council resolution and with NATO taking control now. Let's just push this to NATO, John. Let's let NATO determine what the end state is. Let's let NATO take total control of this so we can finish up in Iraq and Afghanistan. We all agree we have our hands full, but I think that we made the right decision, and now letting NATO take over I think is the right thing to do. NATO needs to prove itself too, because frankly it's done a fairly poor job in Afghanistan except for a few of its key members.
Some would say, though, that some of the NATO member nations, like Italy, for instance, have a much greater stake in Libya because they get their oil from Libya, and they should really be the ones bearing the burden of the battle there. Yes, the United States has apparently handed over to NATO, but NATO is commanded by an American general. It's like America handing over command to an American.
Yeah, and I understand that, but what we have to do, I mean, that's easy to say, but I think what we have to do is say, hey, even within NATO, Germany's playing a big role here, France is going to play a big role, Italy needs to step in and play a big role. We're going to step out, even within NATO, we're going to step out of this a little bit because we need to focus on Afghanistan. And I think we're able to do that, even though we have done the lion's share of NATO's work in the past. I think we can move forward now and say, hey, NATO's the other part of NATO, the non-U.S. part of NATO, is going to take this over. I think that's okay to say, and I think that's what the president has to say in this situation. Totally let them carry the financial burden on this from this point out for the most part, and the actual combat burden. And when we talk about an end state for Gaddafi, let them decide what that's going to be. It's got to be in their best interest, too, for them to really take it seriously, not just the United States' best interest, even though those interests, I think, in the end, will coincide.
Congressman Duncan Hunter, a Republican from California and a Marine combat veteran. Interesting to get your insights. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, a serious threat to our troops from the inside. Next, what's being